So anyways, this is a serious issue. And so the servant has to go and find Isaac a good wife. And he wants him to find Isaac a wife who is willing to accept the same fundamental belief system, which is something like the belief in a God that's a unity rather than a plurality. You know, the other thing that Jung was very insistent upon was that there was a relationship between polytheism and psychological confusion, and monotheism and psychological unification. And I really like that idea too, that, you know, that what you're trying to do, because you are a plurality, that's one of the things the psychoanalysts were really good at figuring out that the cognitive scientists haven't touched yet, as far as I can tell. They're way behind the psychoanalysts in that element of thinking, is that you are composed of sub-personalities, which all have their own desires and their own viewpoint, and their own thoughts and their own perceptions, and they're in a war with each other constantly. Maybe even a Darwinian war. It's been portrayed that way by certain neuroscientists. And that one of the goals of life is to integrate all of that plurality into a hierarchical ethical structure that has some canonical ethic at the pinnacle, right? We've talked a little bit about that. And it's not obvious what should be at the pinnacle, but we can guess at it. It's that which we admire. That's one way of thinking about it. It's that describes fair play across a sequence of games. That's another good way of thinking about it. It's the heroic ideal. That's another way of thinking about it. But it's combined with generosity. You know, because the hero, the mythological hero, goes out into the unknown and slays the dragon and gets the gold, but then comes back to the community and distributes what's found. And so it's courage plus generosity. And so all of that interior struggling that you're doing is an attempt to bang yourself against the world with challenge constantly, to hit everything together like you're beating on a piece of iron to cure it, let's say, so that you're not an internal contradiction, you're not a massive competing God, something like that, because it's just too psychologically stressful and hard on everyone else, and impossible for them to get along with you if you're one thing one moment and another thing another moment. And so anyways, Abraham insists that Isaac find a wife from among people who are likely to carry forward the monotheistic tradition. And I'm not sure that the monotheistic tradition is actually distinguishable from the individualistic tradition. I think they might be the same thing at different levels of analysis, you know. So, because individual means undivided in some sense, right? To be an individual means to be one thing. And the other thing that mitigates against the idea of life as happiness is it isn't obvious to me that it's happiness that is what molds you and shapes you. You know, it's something more like optimal challenge, voluntarily undertaken. It's something like that, right? And I think that's echoed in the idea that everyone has a moral obligation to raise their cross, something like that, to accept the fact of their mortality voluntarily. I believe that that's the case. And I do actually think that that's a prerequisite to proper psychological development, because if you're not willing to take your mortality on voluntarily, like if you're kicking and fighting about it constantly, and you have every reason to, don't get me wrong, then you can't act forthrightly in the world, right? You're going to be afraid, and when you're afraid, then you can't voluntarily take on a challenge, and then if you can't voluntarily take on a challenge, then you can't develop. And so, again, the life seems to be something like, if it's a proper life, is the voluntary taking on of great challenges. And maybe that's better than happiness. Like, it's certainly more noble, you know? It's not a word we use very much anymore, the idea of nobility, because we're so obsessed with happiness. But I think happiness is like, if it comes along, man, great, you know, wonderful. Don't take it lightly or for granted, because it's fleeting. But the idea that that's what you should be for, in some sense, just seems to me, if that's what life is for, then maybe it shouldn't be. Maybe that's correct, because that isn't what life is. But it isn't obvious to me that that's what life should be. You know, I mean, if you really loved someone, like your son, let's say, would you say, well, I hope he has a happy life? Or would you say, I hope he accomplishes great things? It seems to me that that's better, the accomplishing of great things, and because that's admirable, you know? It's like a happy person is a happy person, but a noble person is an admirable person. And that's better, man. And so maybe there are better things than happiness. And so you can't judge being on the basis of the ratio of suffering to pleasure, something like that. And I don't think we do that.